Okay, so
Great.
where I am going to start on the Mysa site is, like you mentioned, kind of how to make sure you're editing the right thing on the back end of the site. So, Whitney, I'm not sure if you log in a lot. Siri, I know you mentioned you do occasionally, but you'll notice that once you do log in, and I'll actually send you over just a copy of the cheat sheet again, just so that you have it. But basically, once you're logged in, you're going to see this black bar at the top of your screen. And I use this little toggle bar all the time because once I'm on a page, this is how I know that if I hit this edit page button, I'm going to be editing that page, not just some other random page. So I'm going to go ahead and click to the back end of that page. And in this case, I'm gonna try to edit one of these text sections. Okay. So you'll notice on the back end, if you ever do see like it looking weird and codey, what you should actually be seeing is how you're seeing it now with these kind of blocks. So what we call this is just like a visual composer mode. So that makes it so that it's super easy to kind of see exactly what you're editing as far as like different boxes and text. But like Siri, like you were mentioning, if you ever see it in kind of a Cody version, it might be in classic mode. So is this kind of what you see when you edit it and it doesn't look super
Yeah, I
easy to
mean,
edit?
yeah, sometimes that, but sometimes even if you go back to the other mode,
Mm-hmm.
like, so like this whole top section here, right? So all these little boxes, so I assume those are just sort of formatting or something, but like,
Yes.
like so right there, the only thing I could possibly change on this page would be the Georgetown, DC, that one where I see the text. All that other stuff, I seem to always
Mm-hmm.
click on the wrong stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like they're,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure, and now this is actually a video, so there's not going to be much that you need to edit there. But what this is telling me is that this whole top section is our QO'd slider, and that's just basically the setting that we have on home pages where you're going to find all that text. So like before we had images and that sliding text. So that's actually going to be something a little bit different. So I'll just dive into that now. So if I ever do want to edit this page, I don't typically recommending doing this a lot because it can get a little bit more complicated. But basically all I'm going to do is go to this QO'd slider setting. And this is where you're going to be able to see, like, this is a video. And we do have, like, these are your old slides that we had kind of removed to do the video. But if you ever did want to bring those back, you absolutely could. So I'm just going to click on this so you can see what's going on with that. And this is actually our video slider that we have going on right now. And since it's just the video, all we have is this video MP4. So this is that document to your video. And you can see here that we have the slide background type as video. So that's just telling the website to grab the video instead of grabbing an image. And like I mentioned, if you did want to change this out, I do recommend that's something I do recommend kind of coming to us with because it can get a little bit trickier.
Okay.
But just so you know. Okay, so I'm gonna go actually back to this these text blocks. And like you mentioned, this might be one of the more successful ones that you were able to do. But besides this kind of codey stuff, like I mentioned, that's just the slider. But if you go down, it's actually all like drag and drop boxes. So we really like these because they're really easy, like building blocks if you did want to be changing the layout, which again, we don't recommend doing a ton of just because it might affect the design negatively. Really, it can get a little bit messy if you're not like 100% sure with what you're doing, but we do like that you can easily edit any of these text blocks. So if I'm trying to edit this, just say I want to make a quick text change, all I would do is click this little pencil button. And basically, the little pencil button is pretty much a universal symbol throughout the website that's going to be like your edit block. Okay, and once I click into that, you'll see it comes up with a super simple, kind of like a Word doc format where I can obviously change out any of this text, make anything like bold if I wanted to. If I want to change it to like another heading style, we could do that. And really, like, you can add links, really very similar to what you'd be able to do with a Word document. And since I don't want to save any of this, I would just click this X. But say I'm happy with all the changes I made, I would hit Save Changes right here. And then I would also hit Update right here at this top right button. And basically this Update button just tells the site to make that change live on the actual page. And then very similarly with these images, again, you're going to hover over it and you're going to get this little pencil icon. I'm going to click on that. And you'll see we have this little circle image right here. If I wanted to change that out, all I'm going to do is click this Add Image block. And basically it's going to give me all of my media library, so all of these options. And then if I wanted to add in a new image, I could drag it from my computer, which I'll just show you how easy that is. It's just a matter of dragging and dropping. And then if I wanted to select that image that I wanted to use, I would just hit Set Image here. But I'm just going to go ahead and delete that out since we don't want it.
Wait, so you dragged it from where? How did you do that again? So you
Sure. So I actually just have this image laying on my desktop right now, just for training purposes. But
mm,
if you had it like in your document settings or in your documents files or something like that, you could literally just drag that from that
mhm.
folder into this media library here, and it will just place it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just do upload and it would
Yep,
do
you could do that too. So if you upload files, it'll show you everything that you have like in your computer as well.
Okay, so if we go to the page where you were changing that circle
Hmm.
photo and that editing there. So I think when Whitney changed those photos, she also changed the size, so they're bigger. How do we make them smaller again?
Sure, sorry. So, okay, so you're saying if you want to make these all smaller?
Yeah, how would you do that?
What I typically recommend for image sizing is making sure the image size is changed like before you upload it to WordPress, because it's really tricky to get them like all size and the aspect ratio correct, like if you're playing around with it in WordPress. So my recommendation, if you're trying to make like 4 images the same size, just resize them on like a Paint or like an Irfan View or Photoshop before you upload them in, and that way you're pretty sure that you're getting the same image size. That said, if you did want to play around with it a little bit more, they do have these options. So right now, if you don't put in any image size, it's just going to give you the full image size. But if I wanted it to go small, you can literally just type in small. Um, like you see here, it says you can do medium, large, or if you want like an exact size, you can type that in too. The only problem with that is if you're typing in a size that doesn't have like the correct aspect ratio, the image can look really like wonky or get stretched or get cut off or something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And there are a few options that you can do with your images as well. So, like we have here, we actually have this going to the FAQ page, and that's just done with this custom link. But if you did want to take away that link, all you'd have to do, drop down and just hit none, and that would actually just unlink this photo. Okay. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, perfect.
I'm okay.
Awesome. And that's going to just be the same for all of these images and all of this text. So even changing out like a title is the same as just clicking the little pencil and you get your title there.
So another sort of question. I
Sure.
think it's pretty obvious. So on the top of each sort of box or component of this, there's an edit button,
Hmm.
there's a trash, and then there's a plus. And the plus means to duplicate it, or what does that mean?
Sure, great question. So the plus is actually saying I want to add like a new element. So each of these little blocks are its own element. So right here we have an image element, right here we have a text block. Say I wanted to add like a new image to this. That plus box is actually going to give me all of these options. And a lot of these options we don't use a ton of, but they're like a bunch of different design elements. So actually, let's say I wanted to add a button to this. So that's just one of the elements that you can add. And that's actually what that plus icon is saying is I want to add something new to this.
So the plus is for any of those sections, right? So that like that little section there, there's an image, there's a headline, and then there's like text below it. So it's
Exactly.
three different sets. So there's a plus for each of those boxes.
Yep, so if I click the plus here, it's just going to add it to the bottom of this column. But if
Okay.
I add it to do this little plus sign right here, and I added that same button, it's actually just going to add it, my button go?
Below the circle?
Yep, it's going to add it like right below all of those boxes right here.
Okay.
Whereas if I just added it to this column, it would just add it right below here.
Okay.
And I'm just going to exit out of that. And actually with any of these, say you added it right here, but you actually wanted to place it right below this, all of these are drag and droppable. So I can grab that and move it right there too.
That's cool.
And then obviously like the trash is this little button, but to duplicate it, say I wanted two buttons. I could just click this little icon that's just your universal clone button. That's just going to clone that button. And I can, if I wanted, say I like this button, I can just move that over here if I wanted to add it to that column as well. I'm just going to go ahead and trash both of those. And another thing about this clone button, so yes, it works for individual elements, but let's say you had like you wanted to clone this entire 4-column row. You would actually do that right here. So you see that all of these buttons apply to this entire row. I could just
Okay.
hit clone for that. Sorry, it just froze a little bit on me. And here you go. All of those just were added beneath that. So that's safe, like if you're adding new services or anything like that, you don't really have services since you're just a school, but that is how you would do that. You could add like new images, new headlines, and new text below.
So that's how we'll do it when we start for like the blog page. We can just have a column of 4, and then every time, as it gets bigger and bigger, we just keep cloning each 4.
That's a great question. The blog page is set up a little bit differently, and I'll definitely go over that in a little bit, but it is set up differently. So when you add a new post, it's just going to automatically be added there. You don't have to worry about cloning rows or anything like that.
Okay, and then so another sort of general question is,
Sure.
so one of the things that I'm sort of on the fence about, but I feel like the landing page has a little too much stuff going on it. So let's say we wanted to get rid of that row of all those circles and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
How do we sort of like, what happens when we get rid of it, and does it still sort of stay like the video stayed and all those things sort of stay, it lives somewhere? So if we say, oh no, like everybody's like, oh, I
Can we
really
hide it?
how do we bring it back?
So if you delete out this, it's just deleted. It doesn't stay anywhere.
Okay.
There is like different CSS code that we could add in as far as just making something like temporarily disappear, but that is like a separate code addition.
Okay.
Like
Right.
I wouldn't recommend doing that
Right.
yourself. But all of these images still live in that media library. So if you did want to bring this back later on, you'd still have all those images living in the media library, so you wouldn't have to worry about those being deleted out or having to re-add those back in.
But where would we find sort of the template for this layout? Is there, like, how do I, like, so let's say we want to add to the Bethesda page at some point this
Mhm.
same like for this particular layout?
Sure. So there's no like a separate template apart from these, but what I can recommend is, again, this cloning option. So say you wanted to create that Bethesda page to be very similar to this, but maybe like take out this row of circles and like remove this testimonial section. What you could actually do is clone this entire page. So what we would do if we did want to do that, again, this is a little bit more WordPress like 102, but it's still pretty straightforward. So all you would do is click copy to a new draft, and I'll just do it for the sake of this tutorial. But once you actually copy to a new draft, instead of this button saying update, now it says publish. And that just means that my page here, I'm not messing with this page at all anymore. So any change I make to this home-2, you're not touching anything on the live homepage. But from here, I can actually like remove anything that wouldn't apply to my Bethesda page, and then I could update any headings I wanted. Obviously add in new elements. You can really do whatever you want, but it's easier to kind of start with somewhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great.
And then once you actually decide you like how it is, you can click publish, and that's not actually going to go anywhere on your menu. That's just going to, like, if you wanted to link it later on, you could do that, but you wouldn't have to worry about, once you publish it, it's going to go right here on this homepage. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know
How
it
would
can
you,
get a little...
where would you link it? Let's just say that we want to link it to About News or something. How could you link that
Sure.
duplicate page?
Absolutely. So I'm not going to publish this, obviously, but let's just say I did. Where I would go next if I wanted it to go under like About, and this is actually getting into our menus, which is great. So I'm actually going to go to Appearance here, and then Menus. And this is actually going to be where all of this lives. Again, it's just slightly more complicated now that we've added in these little special drop downs. But as far as adding in a new page, it's still pretty intuitive. So you'll see this Mysa main menu top navigation is what we're working with. So we have our home, our about, and then we have all of these sub pages as well. So if I were to go under, that's where all of these are. And let's say, let's say we did publish this page and we called it like Bethesda 2 or something. It's going to show up right here. So just for example's sake, let's pretend that it was called Adult News. That's my new page. And I'm just going to click Add to Menu. And I'm not going to save this, so this isn't going to go on the live site. But once you click Add to Menu, again, this is another great drag and drop feature. You're going to see it at the bottom there, but I can move it up to like that About section. So if I want to show it under 6th and 12th grade, I can leave it there. Or if I want it to be its own item that shows up here, I can move it slightly to the left, and it will show right before education here.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then how do you rename those? So like I don't like Adult News. I'm going to change that. So how do I change that?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to click that little button there, and your navigation label is going to be right there.
Easy.
So you can go ahead and change that out. And then if you wanted to save that, obviously hit just Save Menu. I'm not going to do that. And then again, on the other hand, let's say you wanted to remove this page out of the menu. It's just remove right there. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And those are kind of the basics of like the menu that I would typically show on training. Since you guys have like a little bit, this is a more advanced menu than we typically do. But if you did want to dive in a little deeper, I will definitely show you how to get to like some of these like colors and images and things like that.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so I'm gonna start, let's do this Mysa one. So I'm under about and then the Mysa item, and it's actually gonna be right here. So instead of clicking this little arrow button, which is what I would normally do, I am gonna click on this little Uber button right here. An Uber menu is just the name of the plugin that we used for this menu. And a lot of this is stuff I'm not going to touch, but where we made that the customizations is this custom content right here. And a lot of this is just like a WYSIWYG editor, so it's a lot of code, but what you do see is right here, that's your text that we're using for right here. So if you did want to edit any of that, all I would recommend, like, you can definitely do that. Just make sure you're working within like these brackets, because this like bracket /p, that's just telling it I want that to be the paragraph text font. So if you take away any of those brackets, it's just gonna like mess it up a little bit. Not the end of the world, but it would definitely be not super easy to fix on your end.
Okay.
Another thing is that you can notice in here, again, it's a lot of code, but if you look a little bit deeper, it's pretty straightforward. So this read more, that's just telling me that that's the text that we're using in this text box right here. So read more. And this is telling me that that link is going to my About page.
Yep.
And then you'll see the different colors that we used. Again, I don't recommend messing with that too much, but just so you know where that is. And then your image is actually right here. So that one's pretty straightforward. It's just image. So if you did want to change that out, just select a new one. And again, that's just going to go straight to your media library. And you could either choose a new image from here or again, drag and drop one in or select a new file.
And all of that is on the original appearance menu.
Yep, exactly.
Uber. Okay.
Yep, so you just go to, once you remember that menus is under appearance, it's pretty straightforward, but it took me a little while when I first started to remember like menu appearance.
So why is it not under menus?
That's a good question. So WordPress is just, that's pretty much its default. It's just always put menus under appearance. Where there, did you see another menus? If there is another menus on this sidebar, it's just from that plugin that we used. Typically, there wouldn't be any other menus under here.
Well, no,
The only reason,
yeah, right there under appearance, themes, widgets,
yep.
menus, yeah.
So that's not going to show if I'm not clicked into appearance.
Okay.
But since I am clicked into that, so if I clicked on like users right now, I'm just going to leave. Like that's not going to show anymore. So if I hover over that, that's when I can get to menus. Okay. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, great. And while we're on a little bit more of, like I mentioned, you also wanted to be able to update this footer. Again, that's a little bit more like WordPress 202, but I am happy to show. So again, this is another one that's going to be appearance, and then this one is actually widgets.
Okay.
So I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but footers are definitely more complicated, and I don't typically recommend making these changes yourselves. As far as editing like text, that's pretty straightforward, but adding in like new icons and things like that can get a little bit tricky. So in this case, we have the logo, some text, and then your icons, and this is probably footer column 1. So if I go back to my widgets page, you can see there's a bunch of different ones. I'm looking for footer column 1. And this is actually where everything lives. So once I click down on that, you can see that right here, it's definitely very codey. So this is actually where your logo is, We have a separator in there to separate out that logo from the text. But if you did want to change out that text, this is where that is right here.
Okay.
And again, I would just be very cautious if you are editing this. Just make sure you're not taking out any of like these brackets or code lines, because those do make a difference.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, if you did update like your Facebook link or your Instagram link, those are pretty straightforward. If you click down on any of these, you could actually just change the link right here.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is there a menu of like, you know, the different media things? Because I wanted to add our Flipgrid page, but is there like a stock list of like Facebook, Instagram? Like, how do we do that?
Yeah, so there definitely is. I'm not sure. So we have like the icons right here. So it gives you all of these. For the flip one, they have like your basic ones like Facebook, Foursquare. I think they try to be as accommodating, but they don't always have every single one that you want. Obviously, it doesn't look like they have that flipbook one.
Flipboard, yeah.
Flipboard, yes. So for that, was that just going to be like a link to that Flipboard?
Yeah, I mean, because we're starting to add tons and tons of articles on there,
Yeah,
but
sure.
you know, if it's not an easy thing to do with their logo and everything, then I guess we won't do it.
And it is something that we can add. It would just obviously be a little bit of a customization since it doesn't come out of the box.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that?
Can we look at column 2 just to
Sure.
see that? Was that the link to open apply? Is that what that is?
Yep. So
column 2?
yep. This is probably actually going to be column 3. You'll see here that we have like a blank space, but a lot of times it's just kind of opening and seeing what's there. So if I open that, you'll see nothing was in footer column 2. We actually have it in footer column 3.
Okay.
And right here, you'll see that this one was a little bit more of a WYSIWYG, but it's basically your same thing. So we added like the code for that button, and then yes. So right here we have the tour, and then below that, again, it's the same thing. It's just we did it a little bit more Cody on this one too. So you're going to see your button colors, your link,
Mhm.
and then the same thing for the apply now.
Okay.
So if you did want to change out any of those links, again, it's just a matter of making sure you keep it in between those little quotes.
Yeah. That's clear.
Okay. Any other questions on those?
I think I'm good for that.
Okay, great. And I will go to one subpage just to kind of show you the difference between like your home page and then just like another random subpage on the back end. Again, all of these are going to be very similar as far as editing. So when I go to edit that on the back end, I'm just going to leave. You're going to see like the same text blocks. Sorry, whenever I do this on a screen share, it tends to lag a little bit. Okay, so again, you're gonna see the same like little drag and droppable elements. If you wanted to edit any of that, you just click the pencil. And a lot of what these are just separators. So that's just telling me I wanted to add some space in between that. And I see what you're saying now about you're not able to see these two. And that's just exactly because it's white text. And you're just not able to see white on white. So if I click on that to edit it, and I actually highlight it, you see the text there. But let's just say I did want to edit that. A good little hack for getting the white text to show just on the editor side is just click this text. And you can see your text here. It's just actually in this like color code span. So if you wanted to see that, just make sure again that you're editing between those. Or what you could do is just change this to black, and then while you're editing it, and then just change it back to white.
Okay, that totally makes sense. Now,
Mhm.
Okay, great. Glad I could shed some light on that one. Any other questions on these? So these FAQs, again, are pretty much the same kind of editor. You can click on any of these to edit them, but basically once you've clicked in, you'll see that it's just another text block. So if I want to edit any of those FAQs, I just click the pencil. But then if I actually wanted to edit the question, it's just going to be this little orange section here. So just click the little pencil in the orange section, and the title is actually going to be your question.
and then to add more,
Mhm.
we just put a plus at the bottom.
Yep, add section.
Okay.
And one thing about this, like say I did want to add a new one, you're going to add your section, and then again, you're going to click the little pencil to add your new question right here in the title. But then in here, you're actually going to want to add a text block. So again, the plus sign is to add an element. So once you click in this, it's actually going to bring up these whole options again, but you're just going to want text block. And then from here, you can add your new answer.
Okay.
I'm going to leave this page without saving again. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some of the posts. So like I mentioned, this is going to be a little bit different than just editing a page. So we have been doing this adult news page, so I'm just going to go to that page. There we go. Okay, so as you know that these are just like a collection of blog posts, so it's going to look a little bit different on the back end than what we're used to seeing for pages. Let's give it a second. And we've actually set it all up so that when you add a new post, it's just going to be added to the top here. So when I look at the back end of that adult news page, you're not going to see like the content yet. You're actually going to just see this latest posts section. And basically how we have this set up, again, it's in the number of columns we want, all of this. And this slug here is actually pulling the category of posts that we want. That might be a little bit confusing, but I'm just going to show you where all of those are. So all of my posts are in this posts section right here. And you'll see here, this is where all of, like, when you add news or adult news or student news, this is where all of these are housed. So this climate change connect unit is right here. And then you'll see that it's going to go to that adult news page because we have it categorized right here as adult news. So if I actually click into that climate change connect, this is where you're actually going to be able to see that content that shows on this page. And you're not going to have the same building blocks here, but again, this is just like basic text and a title. So we just made it a little bit simpler. So you'll see here, it's actually going to give you the date. I know you guys have done like news pages before, but it's just going to automatically give you whatever date you published it on. And then the title right here is actually just coming from this title section right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then where you choose your categories is actually just in this section right here where it says categories. And since we wanted it on that adult news page, we click the adult news. Sorry. And then I started creating that new student news page with the coming soon. But let's say I wanted that to be shown on that page as well. I would just check that, and then it would actually feed into that page too.
Oh, okay.
And then obviously to update anything, it's just a matter of clicking update. And that's actually going to make it so that this post goes into that student news section.
And then if it goes into the what's new, that's the third column. If we put it into that, then that's where it populates it into
Yep.
Mysa student or Mysa news.
That's exactly right.
And then it also puts it onto the home page too, right?
I believe so. I would need to double check to see what exactly that category is pulling from, but it'll tell you. Yep, so if you look on the back end, it'll actually show you like it's pulling from this category. Like I showed you where adult news was coming from on that other page. It'll be the same thing for those ones. And then for this featured, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just had a question with SEO, because it has tagging right there. If you put in tags right down there, is that helping search engines find it if people wanted to, or if people were searching on your website, or what would that tags be down there?
So it is for SEO purposes as well as like if someone was searching on your site. It's not like a huge SEO contributor, but it doesn't hurt. So if you did want to add in like tags, that's definitely not going to like pull up this page on the top search of Google if someone's doing a search on that word. But again, it doesn't hurt it at all. So if you did want to do that, you can absolutely go ahead. Any other questions on that?
I'm okay.
Okay, and the last thing on posts is getting this image to show. And sorry, let me actually go back real quick. So that featured image is actually going to show right here too. So in all of my posts, I have this little featured image section right here. So that's, again, just in my media library. And again, that's going to feed to this front page preview as well as that, as when you're actually in the post, that image on top. Okay. Any questions on that?
So, yeah, I just had a question when I was doing those posts prior. There's a way to make those images. There was just different options that I was confused about, like responsive or. So I was curious what some of those were.
Sure. Where were you seeing that?
I think if you scroll down to featured image, maybe it's in one of these options. Maybe not the QO'd, but like, yeah, in this part right up here, yeah.
Sure.
Like the background image, yeah.
A lot of these I don't recommend, like you don't need to do a lot with. This background image is this background image here. So if you wanted to change that out, sorry, I'm on like 2 pages right now. If you wanted to change that out, it's just a matter of, again, going to your media library. So it's clicking upload right here. And then either choosing a new image or uploading a new image. For any of these header images, I just recommend having them at least at like 1920 by something just so that it takes up your whole screen. Okay. And then just a general something that you can see, this background, this blue background is actually, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place right now. So this is the back end of this actual like adult news page. So again, this is where like all your posts live. And then this general background, that's the color of this background.
So, and is there, to change that color if we wanted to?
Absolutely. So if you're on the back end of this adult news page, just select color. And you could put in your own color code, or you can choose one from here. So if you wanted it to just be white, just click white, or any one of these. But yeah, it's really any color in the spectrum you can change it to.
Can I, so to change the image under adult news, how do I
Mhm.
do?
So this image right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So that's again, I'm on that adult news page. So not on the back end of any post. It's actually going to be in the same place as I just showed you for that other one. It's just under the QO title. It's under background image. So you can kind of see the preview of it right here. But if I wanted to change that out, again, you're seeing your media library again. So that's going to be pretty consistent whenever you're changing out images on the site. And so if you wanted to select a new one, just click select and then select image, and that's what's going to show up right here. And let's say you did want to make this like maybe half of this size. Again, not something I would expect you all to change a lot, but it's just going to be this title height here. So for half that size, I would just change that to like 200.
Yeah. I
Just set
think
a
now that
date.
we have the all these other images on there, we don't need this huge sort of header picture,
Right.
unless it's a great picture. So then the other thing is for that page, and I assume for the student news page, which is going to be the same layout, I really would like to have the boxes be mostly image. Do you know? So, and then also have them be the width of the page. Could we make the image? Could we just make those boxes like wider and fill in the page so that for across that there's not a lot of like blue there? Do you know what I mean?
Sure. So, yeah, like just make the boxes a little bit wider. So instead of just gridding, like keeping it in this grid, it kind of goes out a little bit farther.
Yeah, so it fills the page under the whole thing, and then also for each box, I guess I'd prefer for it to be like 3/4 image and then 1/4 text, because I feel like that is just visually more pleasing, and you're gonna like you'll see the picture of the kids in Shakespeare costumes, and that's like I don't know, people I think are more visual when they're
Sure.
looking at these things than
Absolutely. So maybe like take out the excerpt so that it's just like
yeah.
image and then title and maybe.
Yeah, I think that's right. So I think like if you really are interested in the climate change, you'll click on that. You don't need the second one.
Sure. Sorry, I'm just taking a quick screenshot right now for my notes. Okay. Got it. And yeah, we can definitely look into doing that. So any other questions on these posts? So actually one thing I will go over, let's say you're creating a new post. What I do recommend doing is utilizing that copy to new draft feature again. So what I would do if I was doing that, I would actually click into one of these posts. So let's do the climate change unit. And I'm going to actually click edit post in that. And again, we're on the back end of our post. So we see our title, our text, our image, and most importantly, our category. All I'm going to do here if I want to add a new post to the adult news section is click copy to a new draft again. And then from here, I can add in my new post. And I'm actually just going to show you a quick test. I'll delete it out as soon as I put it up, but I just kind of want to show you how it's going to show on the front end. So let's just say I'm changing my title right now to test. We can change out any of this. Again, test. Category, you see that everything moved over to this new post. So my same category is here, my same image is here. Again, that's pretty easy to change out. You just click into that and you get your media library. And I'm just going to go ahead and click publish on this. And the difference between publish on this and then publish on another page is that when you do publish on this, it's going to immediately go to this adult news page. So you see now that it's going to give me my new date and then my new title and image and things. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and move this to trash. And that's, again, how you would delete out any posts. So if you didn't want any of them in there, you just hit move to trash and it'll be removed.
Great.
Great. So any questions on that?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm good.
Perfect. And just real quick while we're on posts, I'm just going to show you what I've done for student news right now. So when you do want to set these up, I've just added in new images here, but I've set all of these to just coming soon. So whenever you want to add a new one, you can actually just click into this post right here.
And edit it directly.
And edit it, correct. So then you would get your new text and your new title. And actually, if you want to change out any dates, it's another one. So right now, if you were to edit this, it would stay at August 6th, just because that's when I published it. But if you wanted to change it to the date that you actually edited it, you could change this. So I would just click edit on this published on date, and then just change it to whatever date you actually wanted it to show as. And then click update. Okay. Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Perfect. Okay. And I do think that's everything I wanted to cover. All of these other like subpages are set up the exact same way as far as like editing out text and editing out images. It's just a matter of clicking edit page, and then you're going to get to the back end with all of those boxes again. Sure. So was there anything else that you wanted me to cover or go over? I'm happy to really look at anything.
I don't think so. Is there anything else on the left-hand menus that we sort of need to know, like on the edit page? There's a lot of things we mostly did appearance. Is there anything on any of those that we need to like know anything about?
Sure. So a lot of these are, I tell anyone that I'm training, like, don't worry about it. Most of them you won't need to know. Again, you're going to be looking at pages, posts. Like I mentioned, whenever I want to edit a specific page, I usually just click edit page on the page I want to edit. But if you wanted to just see a list of all of your pages, you could click on that and you would get a list of all of those. And you'd actually be able to edit it this way as well.
Okay.
So it's just different ways of getting to the same place.
Okay.
Okay, let me make sure.
Oh, I actually have one question that we can do now or in a second. I was curious about the video is on the website, but if you go to the mobile site, then it's pictures. So if we wanted to change those pictures on the mobile site, how would we do that?
Yep, great question. So that's actually going to be, again, on your QO'd slider. So whenever there's like a home page or like a video slider or anything like that, it's typically right there. And again, it's my video slider. Okay. And this is actually the image that shows right here on mobile.
Okay.
So a lot of times with mobile, it's either like some people's phones don't load up the video, or there's just a lot of different variables as far as different phones go. So we typically like to just do that as an image to make it uniform. But again, it's just a matter of clicking upload and then picking out your image.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
I think we're good.
Okay, and if you do come up with any other questions, obviously feel free to email or shoot me a call. I am always happy to help.
Great, thank you.
No problem at all. Yeah, sounds great. And I'll send you over this video either later today or tomorrow. And are both of you able to access the site as far as logins and things like that?
Yep.
I assume
Okay.
so, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll just send over the video then.
So I have a non-video question. Somebody told me our site is not at all secure. Is that, how do I?
Sure, and I'm actually in the process of sending out emails to all of our clients that don't have an SSL certificate right now. So this is perfect. I can send out one less email. Okay, so basically what that means is just that it doesn't have this little secure symbol right here. I'm actually going to stop the screen share or the recording right now if that's okay.